From a child born without a brain to another that has probably read more books than you will ever read in your lifetime, at just 4 years old, this is a list of some of the most astonishing kids ever born. Some of these stories will amaze you, and some of them, let's just say they're quite disturbing. Get ready to be immersed in the world of oddities and anomalies as we explore 23 kids you won't believe actually exist. Number 23. Alex Simpson. In the complex, inexplicable system that constitutes the process of pregnancy and birth, sometimes things can go south, and some children get born before some parts of their bodies are fully formed. While this is usually a limb, such as arms or legs, Alex Simpson's case is very different. At first glance, you may even find it hard to pinpoint what exactly is the abnormality this little girl suffers from. This is because what she's missing is an internal organ, perhaps the most important of all, the brain. Agreeably, you may find this very hard to believe, and that's fine. But it doesn't change the fact that it is very, very true. Alex Simpson was born with a rare condition known as hydranencephaly, which means she was born with almost no brain. Can you imagine having to live without the major system that controls the functionality of the body? What's more intriguing is that the parents couldn't figure out what exactly was wrong with their baby at first. She would cry for hours and hours on end, sometimes for over 20 hours at a stretch. In order to detect what anomaly gave the girl so much discomfort, doctors had to put her through a CAT scan, where it was revealed that she only had what was described as a little sliver of a cerebellum in the back right corner of her cranium. As you would expect, this significantly reduced the quality of her life. The most amazing part of this story is that even though the doctors gave her just 6 months to live, Alex surprised everyone when she made it to 10 years old. How did she do it? The doctors are still scratching their heads to explain it as we speak. Number 22. Deepak Paswan. While some babies are born bearing inadequate limbs, some have more than they need. The story of Deepak Paswan is one rooted in deep intrigue, as he suffered from a rare medical condition known as polymelia, which left him with 8 limbs, formed in one of the most disturbing ways possible. But how did the extra limbs form, and why did they protrude from his stomach? Well, the extra arms and legs you see here are the underdeveloped parts of his parasitic twin. While in the womb, the twin developed abnormally, which resulted in the fusion of some parts of the body with Deepak's body. As you would expect, this peculiar look made him a subject of mockery and ridicule in the community. Many children were scared of him, and he was devoid of essential social interactions. Thankfully, a miraculous operation in 2010 turned this boy's life around. After determining that the internal organs of the twins were not interconnected, they were able to detach the extra limbs through a delicate 4-hour operation. Thanks to these good doctors, Deepak can now socialize, go to school, and enjoy the joy of childhood like any normal kid. Number 21. Milagros Keron. History is littered with tales of mythical creatures, fantastic beings that possess extraordinary features and amazing superpowers. Of these creatures, mermaids are some of the most adored, although we haven't really been able to confirm whether they're real or not. However, there is a disease known as sirenomelia, which gives children the distinctive appearance of a mermaid. While this may sound like a pretty cool feature, it is actually a very terrible disease. How terrible? Well, children who are born with this rare mermaid syndrome typically die within hours of their birth, which is probably why the case of Milagros Keron was pretty surprising when it came out in the news. Born with this rare deformity, Milagros struggled for years as she grappled with several health issues, which transcended her inability to walk. But with the help of miracle-working doctors like Dr. Luis Rubio, who was Milagros's lead surgeon, not only was she able to walk after the legs were separated, but she also lived for a staggering 15 years. Milagros eventually died in 2019 after succumbing to the kidney disease that had plagued her existence for years. Even though her family greatly misses her, they remain glad that she is now in a better place. Number 20. Gabby Koss. Meet Gabby Koss, the girl who cannot feel pain. At first, this may seem like some divine endowment or a superpower, but the reality is, for Gabby, it's like living in hell. Imagine not being able to feel any pain at all. Probably sounds like something every adult would want. After all, who doesn't need an escape from the many painful situations life has a habit of setting us up with? But for Gabby, life isn't all rainbow and sunshine. In fact, it is the complete opposite of that. You see, Gabby's inability to process pain has led her into many dangerous situations, which could have unintentionally damaged the quality of her life. To give you a better perspective on this, watch her bend her arm in the most grueling way without feeling any pain, and imagine the level of harm this innocent child has been put through due to this anomaly. Even though pain is an unwanted part of our lives, unfortunately, it is essential. But for children born with congenital insensitivity like Gabby, no matter the level of physical harm she goes through, her body doesn't respond to it. When she was 3, she once fell in the garage, banged her head against the kitchen floor, and even bumped her face against a bathroom door frame. But not once did she cry. Her parents even had to remove all her teeth to keep her from mutilating herself with her teeth. That should help you understand how deeply rooted this issue is. There are many more gory details about the life of this young lady that we probably don't want to go into in this video, because they are simply too graphic. Unfortunately, this story doesn't have a happy ending, and no medical procedure to reverse this condition has been discovered yet. But medical practitioners are working tirelessly to uncover the root of the problem, and hopefully one day Gabby will finally be able to lead a former life just like everybody else. Number 19. Farooq James. Agreeably, some of the conditions in this video are pretty hard to swallow, so here's something a bit wholesome to lighten the mood. You've probably heard of Farooq James after all, he's one of the most famous kids in the world. But what makes Farooq famous isn't some strange, rare medical condition, but the luscious and long natural hair that is an unmissable feature of this sweet boy. When the world got to know about Farooq and his hair, everyone went wild and tried to imagine how such a little boy could have so much hair. In reality, his impressive hair is a result of a symphony between culture and nature. You see, Farooq's dad is from Ghana, and according to his culture, it is inappropriate to cut a child's natural hair before it's fully grown. As the years went by, his parents began to notice something peculiar about his hair. It was growing way too fast, and much longer than boys her age. Farooq instantly began receiving modeling gigs, and his Instagram blew up like crazy. But unfortunately, this also has a downside. According to the schooling regulations of the UK, where Farooq is from, boys aren't really allowed to have long hair. This has led to years of legal battles as Farooq's parents try to combat the discriminatory treatment their son has been constantly subjected to by the system. Number 18. Ryus Imay. Meet Ryus Imay, the 12-year-old boy who has been nicknamed the Little Bruce Lee. A slight glimpse into some of the footage recorded of this boy's workout will reveal the origin of that nickname. While many adults struggle to keep up with their gym membership, this boy has been shattering records and turning heads from a very young age. At 5, Ryus dazzled the whole world on the Steve Harvey Show as he performed a scene from Bruce Lee's 1978 hit Game of Death. What's more, he did it flawlessly, mimicking every single move of the kung fu legend without breaking a sweat, while donning the same iconic black and yellow suit. Ryus's proficiency with the nunchakus has also been a subject of marvel and wonder for many, as he swings and strikes at lightning speed, to the amazement of his endeared audience. You really don't want to be in this gym with this boy, because you're definitely going to feel intimidated. From a very young age, Ryus mastered Bruce Lee's advanced workout routine and can effortlessly replicate some of his iconic moves. He even held the record for the world's strongest boy at one point, so you know Ryus isn't playing around. His parents are extremely proud of him, and his story continues to inspire children and adults alike worldwide. Number 17. Vervita Gonova. Did you know that 1 in 1 million babies are born with their heart outside? Well, not necessarily outside, but only shielded by a thin layer of flesh that is considerably insufficient to protect such a delicate organ. However, many of these babies don't usually make it out of the hospital, which is why the story of the now 12-year-old Vervita Gonova is nothing short of a miracle. Born with a rare medical condition known as pathology of Cantrell, Vervita's heart is clearly visible on her body, but this didn't come as a surprise to her parents by the time of her birth. After all, the doctors had informed them of this anomaly while her mother was still pregnant with her. But they had become so endeared with their unborn child that they couldn't see her go, no matter what strange condition she was plagued with. Even though Vervita tries to ensure that the condition does not deter her from living her normal life, you will agree that this would be extremely hard. To protect her delicate heart, she even had to wear a chest guard, because any traumatic injury to her chest could prove fatal. But there's a glimmer of hope. Some ingenious doctors are believed to have crafted up a rare form of surgery that we believe could help bring this sweet child some normalcy in life. Hopefully one day her heart can be tucked back into her chest, and she will be able to enjoy her childhood without worrying about hurting herself. Number 16. Supatra Sopon. On August 5, 1999, the family of Simpson and Supatra Sopon were overjoyed at the birth of their beloved daughter, whom they named Supatra. From the first time the new parents set their eyes on the fragile little baby nestled in their arms, they knew she was special. But there was something about this baby that was quite peculiar. You see, while most babies would boast of a considerably sufficient amount of hair on their heads, Supatra had more hair than other babies usually do. As a matter of fact, she grew hair everywhere. Her face, her hands, legs, literally everywhere. As you would expect, this brought her huge attention and totally baffled doctors in her Thailand home, who hadn't seen anything of this nature before. Supatra is one of the very, very few children in the world who suffer from a rare skin condition known as Ambra syndrome. This strange disease causes excessive hair growth over the entire body. Except for the soles of her feet, her palms, and her mucous membrane, every part of her body is filled with hair. This earned her the nickname Wolf Girl, a term that is both endearing and derogatory. Supatra even holds the record for the world's hairiest girl, but she wouldn't let this anomaly keep her down. According to her parents, she is just as spirited, energetic, smart, and brave as any other child. Her distinct appearance has brought her worldwide fame, and even though she's no longer a kid, she remains a ray of sunshine to everyone around her, and hopes to live a fulfilling life in spite of her seeming abnormality. Number 15. Tessa Evans. While a baby born with excessive hair growth might appear pretty peculiar, how about one born without a nose? Yes, as unbelievable as this may seem, some babies are actually born without noses. This rare condition is known as aryenia, and it features the absence of a nose, no sense of smell, and no sinuses. Of the 47 babies who have been born with this condition throughout history, Ireland-born Tessa Evans remains one of the miraculous examples of this condition. As you would expect, this absence of a nasal cavity greatly affects the quality of her life. But thankfully, she doesn't have to live like that forever. In 2015, the 2-year-old underwent a life-changing surgery and has become the first person in history to be fitted with a special cosmetic nasal implant. With this special procedure, her body will eventually recognize the need for a nose, and it is expected to grow naturally out of stretched skin. But that's not the end of the procedure. The final nasal prosthetic is expected to be fitted by the time she becomes a teenager. Hopefully, all goes well, and she's able to enjoy the quality of life she deserves. Number 14. Isaiah Bird. While the absence of crucial limbs may be considered a limiting factor for most kids, Isaiah Bird shrugs this world and continues to conquer his world, in spite of the fact that he was born without legs. At just 9 years old, the energetic boy excelled both in the classroom, on the sports field, or even in the ocean. He even had a special knack for engaging in events that required the use of legs, including football, soccer, track and field events, swimming, surfing, and even skateboarding. How amazing is that? But it is on the wrestling mat that this remarkable boy from Long Beach, New York, has become a menace to all his competitors. In his 5th year on the wrestling team, Isaiah went 27-12, which was pretty impressive considering his physical limitations. With the support of his loving parents and his ever-increasing tenacity, Isaiah believes he is just like any normal kid, if not even better, and he dreams to live a long and fulfilling life despite his condition. His story continues to inspire millions of kids and adults alike. Number 13. Mohammed Kaleem. In the small Indian village of Chas, in Jharkhand lives a young boy with one of the strangest anomalies you've probably ever seen. But this time, we're not talking about missing limbs or excessive hair. What brought Khim instant fame were his comically large hands. The now 16-year-old suffers from a rare deformity disease known as proteus, which alters the physiology of a child, making some parts of his body bigger than normal. In Khim's case, it's the palms, and these things are really big. As a matter of fact, the length of his palm was about 13 inches from the wrist to the forefinger. While his whole body weighed about 21 kilograms, his arms alone weighed nearly 8 kilograms, so you know how massive they are. Unfortunately, due to this rare deformity, Khim was ostracized from the society and was labeled the devil's child. Children would run away from him as they believed he had been stricken by a curse, which was responsible for his unusually large hands. But in January 2015, a miracle happened, which left everyone astonished. After undergoing a delicate surgery, the extra fingers on his arms were removed, the weight of his forearm was reduced, and the growth plates on his bones were also removed to ensure the arm didn't keep growing. Now, Khim lives a normal life and is forever thankful to the ingenuity of the doctors who reinstated a sense of normalcy into his life. Number 12. Dalia Arana. No matter how many books you've read, there's a very high chance that this 11-year-old girl has read more books than you. Dalia Arana was born with amazing reading abilities that's pretty unusual for other kids her age. You can imagine the wild astonishment on the faces of her parents when she began to recognize words at just 18 months. By 2 years and 11 months, this supergirl was able to read her first book independently. Now that's pretty impressive. Her thirst for knowledge only grew more and more, and as at 2020, Dalia had read over 4,000 books. To put this in perspective, most adults struggle to read 12 books a year, so while she was just a toddler, Dalia had surpassed the vast majority of us by a very wide margin. On January 11, 2017, at just 4 years old, she was made the Librarian of Congress for the day. This was a dream come true for Dalia, who had always regarded the Library of Congress as her favorite place in the whole world. Her voracious thirst for knowledge seems to keep increasing day by day, and it is expected that by the time she's in her 20s, her book counts will be numbering in the tens of thousands. Number 11. Verdant Joi. Earlier, we explored the story of Mohammed Khim, who was born with unusually large hands. But that's not the only child with extra large limbs in this video. Meet Verdant Joi, a 12-year-old boy from Gujarat, Western India, whose right foot alone weighed 12 pounds when he was just 4 years old. You would agree that's pretty massive, but amazingly, this boy can walk and run just like any normal child. Born into a society rife with segregation, Verdant Joi faced serious alienation due to his peculiar look, and sometimes even got bullied for it. His problems are compounded by the fact that he was born into a community with very limited healthcare resources, so his options were very limited. Since his story became public knowledge, hundreds of doctors, both from his home nation of India and even international medical professionals, have studied the foot as they attempt to proffer a solution. But unfortunately, amputation seems to be the only viable option, and his parents definitely don't want that for him. But Verdant remains in high spirits and would not let this simple discrepancy get him down. He maintains the hopes that one day doctors will find a non-invasive procedure that will help alleviate his condition and help him enjoy a normal life, just like every other kid his age. Number 10. Charlotte Garride. While many parents often wish their kids would remain the cute little babies they're born as, nature seemed to have taken it literally in the case of Charlotte Garride. Known as the world's smallest girl, Charlotte Garride was born with an extremely rare form of primordial dwarfism, which left her body in a perpetual state of babyhood. Born in the English town of Withersea, Charlotte's story has continued to captivate many people around the world. Standing at less than 27 inches tall, Charlotte is basically as tall as your typical cereal box. But don't be deceived by her fragile appearance. This little girl is a fighter both within and without. According to her parents, she's one of the most spirited children you've ever seen, although her physical limitations significantly diminished her mental capacities. Despite these limitations, Charlotte engages in several recreational activities with her parents and the rest of the children, who apparently are quite normal looking. Born on the wings of her loving parents, Charlotte soars higher than her deformities, and she continues to baffle everyone as she thrives on and on in her daily life. Number 9. Bella Devyatkina. In the heart of Mother Russia lives a language maverick like the world has never seen. Bella Devyatkina, a wonder among children, captivated the entire world when at just 4 years old she was able to speak 7 different languages. While many of us struggle to attain proficiency in one language or two, this toddler began to master foreign languages at the age of 2. Before you ask, no, her parents are actually not multilingual, which basically adds to the intrigue of this story. According to her parents, Bella appears to be a special kid who finds it extremely easy to learn languages. As it stands, the multilingual darling is fluent in English, Spanish, German, French, Chinese, and Arabic. That is, of course, in addition to her native Russian language. Now, at just 10 years old, Bella continues to captivate the attention of many of us around the world, and her inspiring story has taken her to some of the biggest stages you can imagine. Her story is a testament to the ingenuity of childhood, and the fact that extraordinary things sometimes come from the most ordinary places. Number 8. Xian Hang. From a language maverick to a kid born with a physical abnormality that set him apart from the crowd. In 2013, the story of a young Chinese boy who was born with unusually scaly skin hit the media, and everyone went wild. His name is Xian Hang, and he was born with a rare, incurable disease, which had led to this scaly skin that has remained a thorn in his flesh. Due to this abnormality, Xian Hang suffers from extreme heat, is usually unable to sleep at night, and has a constant extreme urge to scratch. Unfortunately, in spite of the advancements in medical procedures, doctors haven't really been able to find a cure to this condition. However, his only relief can be found when cold water or a thick medicinal cream is poured over his body. But how rare is this condition? According to statistical data, only 16,000 babies are born each year with some form of this disease, and many of them often succumb to the pain after a while. But Xian Hang and his family remain hopeful that one day a cure will be found, and he will find the peace he's always been seeking. Number 7. Jackson Kota. When Lori and Matthew Kota welcomed their beloved newborn on October 28, 2004, they had no idea they had just introduced the world to the next Einstein. Jackson Kota, now 19 years old, took the world by storm at a very young age, when he displayed a remarkable proficiency for mathematics. There have been many geniuses in history, and this boy might just be one of them. With an average IQ of 148 plus, it is no wonder that by the time he was in 4th grade, Jackson was tutoring students in the 11th grade on subjects he had never been taught. Can you imagine that? But that's not the only remarkable thing about this boy. He also possessed the ability to hyperfocus and had pretty impressive eyesight. His other senses are believed to have been heightened due to his hearing loss in both ears. No matter how smart you are, there is a very high chance that this boy is probably smarter than you. Number 6. Oliver Brown. Do you believe in angels? Well, your faith might just be stirred after exploring the story of this remarkable young boy. This is Oliver Brown, also known as Little Angel. Born in 2013, his parents began to notice a distinctive marking running down his spine from his hairline, giving the impression of an angel's wings. But as fantastical as this may sound, it's a pretty terrible condition. Oliver Brown was born with a rare condition known as congenital melanocytic naivety, which is a mouthful to pronounce and affects only one person in every 100, so it's pretty rare. Because of this strange anomaly, Oliver had to be subjected to a doctor's check every 3 months, or it could prove fatal. Although the parents, Matt and Stephanie Brown, initially thought it was a birthmark, it eventually turned out to be something much more serious. He even has to put on a sunsuit and prescription sunscreen when going outside, so as to protect him from the UV rays of the sun. In spite of these limitations, Oliver continues to live a full and fulfilling life and is determined to not let his physical deformity alter the course of his life. We know you're excited to explore more stories of amazing and strange kids, but before we go on, here's our subscribers' pick for today. What you're looking at is the most tattooed kid in the whole world. And even though you may be inclined to say it's not real, it is indeed very real. This young boy is believed to have escaped from an orphanage, drawn by life on the streets. It was during his time in these rough neighborhoods and dark alleys that he amassed such a great amount of tattoos. Although his identity remains elusive, many people have condemned the ethical standards of the tattoo artist, who thought it was a good idea to ink a child. What is your opinion on inking tattoos on a child? Share your thoughts on this very touchy subject with us in the comments. Now back to the rest of the video. Number 5. Ben Underwood. There are very few stories that are as touching and inspiring as the story of Ben Underwood. At the tender age of 3, Ben Underwood was thrust into total darkness after he lost both his eyes to the fight against cancer. But he was determined to rise above his limitations. Therefore, he taught himself the complicated art of echolocation. You've probably heard that term before, and it's usually ascribed to whales. But this remarkable young boy learnt to harness the power of one organ, after his visual organs failed him. With his ears, Ben could pinpoint the exact location of people and things by following the sounds produced. Neighbors and friends marveled whenever they saw him walking without a stick or a guide dog, even though he was totally blind. As a matter of fact, he was so remarkable in his mastery of echolocation that his little brother didn't even know he was blind at first. He would make a sharp clicking noise with his tongue and could instantly tell where he was, and even what sort of objects surrounded him. In case you're wondering why we've been referring to him in the past tense, well, that's because, unfortunately, this story doesn't have a happy ending. Tragically, the same cancer that took his eyesight when he was a child returned when he turned 16. This time, the demon won, and he passed away in 2009. Although he may be gone, his story continues to inspire many of us who can only be grateful to have been blessed with such a wonderful boy. Number 4. Lu Hao. Now, this is a story you're probably quite familiar with. While every parent may refer to their children as a big baby, Lu Hao is the physical representation of the endearing term. At his birth, the China-born toddler weighed just 5.7 pounds, so he really wasn't born overweight. But everything changed when Lu turned 3 months old, at which point he began to gain weight at an alarming rate. By the time he was 3 years old, he weighed an astounding 132 pounds, which is basically 5 times the size of a normal child his age. As you would expect, this massive weight gain brought about some health complications, which included serious heart diseases. But doctors haven't really been able to figure out why he keeps getting bigger and bigger, and after so many tests, the family was left as clueless as they were when they started their journey into medical diagnosis. They, however, remain hopeful that maybe one day, with consistent exercise and strict diet changes, Lu will eventually lose some of the heavy weight and regain a normal body size. Number 3. Juliano Stro. This next story will probably make you want to hit the gym. Meet Juliano Stro, the little boy from Icoana in southern Romania, who became famous after he was deemed the world's strongest boy. At just the age of 5, this remarkable boy broke various Guinness World Records, many of which he still holds till today. His first entry was for the fastest 33-foot handwalk, which he smashed to pieces. Then he also impressed a live audience when he performed the same stunt while wearing a weight ball on his leg. Talk about impressive strength. But that's not all. Juliano also went on to break the Guinness World Record for the most 90-degree push-ups just a year later in 2010. This amateur bodybuilder became a worldwide sensation and has amassed a huge following over the years. Recently, he shared a new picture, and you won't believe how completely transformed he had become. Now a teenager, Juliano is seen wearing loose fitness gym clothes while pointing to his old, ripped self. Even though he's not the cute little kid he used to be, his adoring fans remain solidly behind him and promise to keep providing him with their undying support. Number 2. Didier Montalvo. You could see the excitement on the face of 8-year-old Didier Montalvo as he boarded a plane for the first time in 2011. But it wasn't just the thrill of flying that made this a momentous day for him. This trip from his home in Colombia to the United Kingdom was not a courtesy visit, nor was it for tourism. Instead, Didier was on his way to undergo one of the most life-altering experiences he had ever had. For many years, his feelings had been constantly hurt as people hurled insults at him, labeling him Turtle Boy, because of the strange growth on his back that gave him the distinctive strange appearance. But it wasn't his fault that he looked like this. He was suffering from a condition known as congenital melanocytic nevus. Even though he couldn't even pronounce the name of the condition, it significantly altered the course of his life. Thanks to the careful hands of Neil Bulstrode, a leading plastic surgeon in the UK, the growth was totally removed, and Didier can now enjoy a significant increase in the quality of his life. Number 1. Lydian Nadaswaram. We've seen a couple of strange cases in this video, so it is only fair that we end on a wholesome note. Meet one of the most talented child musicians in the world, Lydian Nadaswaram. Born on September 5, 2005, Lydian has often been praised for his musical prowess, which you'll admit is pretty impressive. He wowed the whole world in 2019 when he appeared on CBS The World Best and won the show, earning a prize money of $1 million. His musical abilities came as no surprise to his parents. After all, his father was a music director. At the age of 2, he started performing on the drums, mastering it to a professional level. Then onward, he went to the piano, which he taught himself, and you need to see this boy play. He's such a marvel to behold. Although he's still pretty young, there seems to be no limits to what this musical maestro can achieve, and the whole world awaits in anticipation of what he has in stock next. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.